The Morning Drive is sponsored by Power Metallic. To find out more about the company, please visit their website at powermetallic.com. Follow the Money Investor Group is a 100% Indigenous-owned company and certified with the Canadian Council for Aboriginal Business.
It all starts with a handshake.
Right on.
Duncan, how are you?
I'm great. Happy to be here. Thank you, Carl.
What's your position with the company?
I am the Vice President for Investor Relations, and I do everything that Terry doesn't have time to do.
Well, since it's my first morning drive with you, let's find out who you are.
Okay.
I got to remind the audience. I'm sure Ashley will be doing a webinar with Terry at some point, or who knows, maybe you. So please go in the description below and see if there's a link for you to join a town hall webinar with the company. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Ottawa, 4 square miles surrounded by reality. Very avid hockey player way back when. Ended up going to school at Western in London, Ontario, so that facilitated a geographical switch to the Toronto area, and I've been there ever since. Love it. That's sort of my basic geo roots, as it were.
Yeah.
I was actually originally born in Scotland. My father was finishing up a medical education, and I showed up there. So I'm.
So you got dual citizenship.
I got to travel all through Europe. I got a dual passports, and
cool.
You know, that's all fun. Yeah, it makes traveling easy.
Yeah, well, I wish I had.
Which
that.
I get to do an awful lot with Terry and
yeah,
and this company.
So let's go back to. Well, you know what? Let's start with your professional career. How about we do that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm sort of an entrepreneurial guy over the years, ran a number of different companies that I put together. But primarily I was a retail stockbroker out of Toronto. Did very well in that industry. Worked for some great companies. Started off in 1986 with Midland Doherty. Almost every company I worked for, they ended up getting taken over. I really liked the independence. I was very proud to work for Burns Fry. That got taken over by BMO. I worked at Yorkton Securities, which was fantastic for really getting involved with all the many facets of the industry. So I've done everything from taking companies public, M&A work, all sorts of stuff. So I think I ended up with a pretty sophisticated knowledge of how things work, and that was a strong appeal for Terry bringing me on a number of years ago. So really, truly understand how things work, and another sort of key aspect, you know what institutional and retail brokers want and look for, and you can talk their language. And for a lot of these guys, I've known them for decades, so there's a nice rapport. There's a strong element of trust. So you get to the meat of the situation a lot quicker than trying to go through some trust building process. So that makes a difference.
Yeah. So when Terry brought you on, this company was called Chilean Metals?
No, it had actually changed its name.
Okay.
But the NIST project was one that was fairly new. And I'd actually worked for about 2 years before with another company that he had founded, and Cardial Therapeutics. And
oh yeah.
He kind of liked the work that I was doing there, and so I came on board fairly early days of the NIST project. We're working on NIST Main. We built it up north of 3 million tons, and we're getting that story out. Nickel was a 4-letter word, still is. So some resistance to all that stuff from guys, and mining still has been a little bit unpopular. But lo and behold, we come up with this discovery at what we originally called Wildcat, and holy smokes, what a change. So awful lot of fun.
What's the roller coaster ride been like for you? I mean, when did you know that this was like the real deal? Like, you got something here that's, you know, really exciting in a crappy market, right?
You know, to be completely honest, I looked at this story, I kicked the tires first. I mean, it's a two-way street, right? Like, you know, do I want to work with this project? And, you know, I knew Terry, I'd met him years before. But when I did my due diligence on this thing, I believe this thing was going to be a significant winner. This is well before the lion discovery. I just looked at this and said, you know what? It has this, and this element to it that I view as absolutely necessary for a successful endeavor. And it had it all. And I went out very firmly and told people, I am a believer. This is gonna happen, and I've been right.
Yes, you guys have definitely been right. So were you able to get some close friends and family in there? It sounds like.
I got a lot of friends in, and
stay away from the family.
Yeah, I got one of my daughters on board early.
Okay.
Which was good. Got my girlfriend on board early. You know, this is her first.
She's happy.
First foray in the stock market, and she's got a 5-bagger, right? She's thinking it's easy. I'm saying no, it's not.
Yeah,
but,
that's the biggest problem she has now.
Yeah. God help her on her second one. Yeah. So, you know, at the end of the day, if you believe in something, and you can tell your story so that people understand it, you know, it makes for an awful lot of fun. There's a great saying, McNamara's first law: understand the big picture and the parts make sense. So that's a good old Robert McNamara from the U.S. government way back when. But it's a great adage, and so when you look at Power Nickel, and you look at all these different component parts, you know, it's important to understand how they all sit in the big picture. And when people get it, they get pretty excited, and usually they're ramping up their holdings in the company, which is nice.
Yeah.
So.
Let's talk about some recent developments here, because
no lack of them.
I mean, I almost like wake up, you know, I check this app, I check that app, and what's Power Nickel giving me today?
Yeah.
Like, honestly, it's almost like that.
So if you look at a lot of the you know, classic sort of mining stories, it's a little bit of a constant purgatory. You know, you get a couple of drill holes, they're nice, or somebody, you know, does some basic work on a property, and then you have to wait 6 months or a year for the next stage. We're doing stuff almost weekly, it seems. You know, we're so busy, so we are very you know, excited. We're putting in all these great drill holes, these assays from the Lion discovery. We've got some great ones coming out next week, which is fun.
Are you allowed to say that?
Yeah, I can say that. I mean, here's the thing. Like, we publish pictures of core. Our stuff is fairly obvious. I mean, I'm not telling anyone, you know, hole X has got this or that.
Yeah.
That's not kosher. But we know from publishing core pictures, you know, this stuff is going to be pretty good, and we're very careful with how we explain stuff to people.
Yeah.
And honestly, another aspect too that, you know, Terry and I very much agree on is there's no need for us to sort of get really excited or make this a shiny story. The facts are facts. Our assays are really what people drive off of at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And we've got the goods. We're not 100% successful in all our holes. You know, we're happy to say, hey, this didn't work out. Gave us information, blah blah blah. But here you go. So, you know, we want to do this as professionally as we can, as carefully as we can. But then we also really want people to dig in and look at stuff. And to that end too, like, I think we go out of our way to make data available to people. If you're a geo, you can go to our website. We've got all our drilling data on the website. Guys can use Leapfrog software systems and create their own
3D models.
Yeah, so how good is that, right? So, all these guys who are sort of analytical pros out there, they need to do their own work. They're not just going to listen to us. We give them everything we can, and let them come up with their own conclusions. So, aside from drilling results, we've announced what we were just talking about before we started. With our stock spin out.
Yeah.
And there's an awful lot to that. On a simple basis, hey, if you're a shareholder and you actually own shares in our company, at the end of the month or the first of the month, you're going to get the spin out in a company called Chilean Metals, using our old name, and you're going to get our assets that are in British Columbia, and you're going to get our assets in Chile, with the exception of the NSR that we have with Teck. That's going to be retained by Power Nickel. And then shortly after that, just for more fun, we're going to change our name and use it to more accurately reflect where we're sitting in terms of our composition today.
Hint, hint.
Yeah, there you go, right?
And what happens when you do something like this and you're shorting the stock?
Well, geez, it's going to be very exciting to see. So there's sort of two groups that are out there. There's some people who legitimately short our stock. There's nothing wrong with that. It's declared, it's properly margined. It's someone who might be doing a hedge against a warrant position that they have, or might be a long short hedge fund. No problem. I mean, that number seems to bounce around between a couple 100,000 shares and maybe 1 million shares. We're totally indifferent on that. People can do whatever they want. But the real issue is these sort of nefarious characters taking advantage of some rules that are out there, like the short market exempt rule, and basically illegally shorting our stock. And that number is substantial. One of the jobs I do is help put together data from a whole bunch of different sources, and work with a number of different analytical groups. Some of them are just spectacular with what data they're able to come up with. But we're able to ascertain, brokerage shops and banks that have offside positions. They might say they've got 10 million shares on the books, but they really only legitimately have 5. These guys are all going to have headaches. So when we do our stock spin out, the only people who are going to get it from our trust agent, Endeavor, are people who can legitimately prove that they own our stock. They're DRS registered paper, or they have an actual, old-fashioned share certificate. Those guys are going to get it. The guys who don't have it are not. And we think that it's going to be a bit of a quandary for these various banks and brokerage firms that don't have legitimate positions on the books. So they're going to have to
take positions.
They're going to have to close the loop, get rid of those imbalances, and own legitimate stock.
By what date?
They're going to do that by the end of the month.
Yeah, I told a colleague of mine, shout out to Blake, about Power Nickel probably a few weeks ago. He ended up, he looked at the chart, he pulled it up while we were on a call, and he said, "Oh, that thing looks tightly held."
It is.
That's what he said. And that's just what he thought when he saw the chart, right? And anyways, once the spin out happened the other day, or the announcement, he called me to talk about it. So he kind of understood that as well, about the shorts. And
well, that's a really very, very strong point too. That let's say roughly we have 200 million shares out. We have a small group of people. Terry, his family. The number of institutions out of Montreal, like Palos and BT Global, Robert Friedland, Robert McEwen, other people on the board. That's almost half the stock that's out there in the company. And then there's another 25% that's held by sort of a small core group of our friends and family, as it were. In practical terms, real float out there is about 40 to 60 million shares. So it is very, very tightly held.
Yeah.
Now, that said, these guys who are utilizing this SME rules, they're still very active in our stock. I mean, we think that number is up around 80 million. And just for fun, if we look at a time frame from June of this year to early September, we did a whole bunch of analytical work. We traded just over 30 million shares, and just very sort of general numbers. But over half that were nefarious stock trading in our company. We were able to basically track half that were legitimate trading. So that gives you an idea of just how prevalent these guys are in our marketplace.
And that's with the Save Canadian Mining Initiative and bringing a lot of eyeballs and attention to this. They still clearly, and these are people that would have legal advice, so they still feel justified, eh? Like
they obviously see some opportunity to be influential and make a buck. They're losing money, at this point, and that's also in the face of us working with the regulators and the different banks and brokerages.
Yeah.
So, like, I sent out letters, registered mail to, call it a dozen significant banks and brokerages in both Canada and the U.S. To compliance departments saying, hey, listen, please explain why you guys are offside in your positions. And we did the same thing with Ciro and FINRA, and they basically have, as far as we know, said thanks for we received your letter, and that's it. And when we've pressed them for any kind of call to action, what are you guys doing? Have you found anything? Is there any way we can help? Radio silence, So very, very frustrating on the regulator side. These guys are important for making these markets work properly. So I'm the last guy to talk about this stuff, but Terry is the number one guy.
Yeah, he's good.
And Save Canadian Mining, the work he's been doing there is fantastic. They'll bring in a new managing director here in short order. He'll be someone that isn't attached to the industry, but putting in someone who has no affiliation, who is someone that will be held in high respect. That's going to be a bit of a game changer in terms of optics. So that's something to look forward to as well.
Would that mean that Terry's coming off as CEO, or?
Well, he's going to be pretty much fully devoted to Power Nickel. I mean,
you're talking about Save Canadian Mining.
So Save Canadian Mining, he's
yes.
So
that makes sense.
No, Terry.
I was like thinking for a second, like, what?
Terry's lucky to sleep. I mean, he's focused on Power Nickel like mad. So it's good. Yeah.
Okay, got that straight.
No.
Yeah, I get it. No, I understand. He's got that thing going now, Save Canadian Mining, so he can kind of step away from that a bit, right?
Yeah, that's right. So he can help advise and such, but he'll pass the torch on running it day to day.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, it's been our first morning drive together. We got to know you a bit. Where do you call home?
Toronto. I'm in.
You're out of Toronto?
West End. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, we can always hook up with you and do something there in the Cyber Truck.
All right, I love it.
And we'll see you probably in about 5 or 6 weeks down in PDAC.
Yeah.
Will you be there?
Oh, we'll be there.
Terry will probably be there.
Yeah.
And we'll do something with you there. And yeah, go in the description below, and if we've got a webinar link posted, then kindly add that to your calendar, because it's always straight fire when it comes to Power Nickel. There's so much going on. I know it's the most exciting name down there at the conference.
It is.
Because I've been to a few booths, right? And someone says, "Oh, who are you doing today? What morning drive you got?" And I say, "Oh, I'm doing Power Nickel in a bit." Power Nickel. Oh, I've heard a lot of people talking about them, right? So it's and it makes sense.
industry is really coming on board. I mean, certainly as far back last year as Beaver Creek, people are coming up to us and saying, "You guys are on fire! Thank goodness! You're transforming the people's view on the mining world."
Yeah, we need it.
And yeah, it's a breath of fresh air, and it's going the right way. So we're really excited to get that kind of feedback from industry, and we hope things continue to develop for everyone across the board.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. I am definitely biased here. As Power Nickel, we do things like this, so we market the company. But my wife and I also own stock.
Awesome.
So I'm excited to the future. You know what else I'm excited about? Happy hour in like an hour. The old
Right on.
spaghetti factory, man. I got pounds of wings for $10, and they give me my garlic butter. I'm on keto.
Oh yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Right on.
And,
Right on.
yeah, we'll wrap it up.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.
All right. Bye.
Follow the Money Investor Group is a 100% Indigenous-owned company and certified with the Canadian Council for Aboriginal Business.